Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and realizing that almost everything you need has quietly become more expensive. Not just one thing: gas, groceries, rent, mortgages, even borrowing money. And the strangest part is, America doesn't look like it's in trouble. The streets are busy, people are going to work, restaurants are open, stores are full, cars are moving through traffic. From the outside, everything looks completely normal. But underneath that normal picture, something is changing. Companies are becoming more cautious. Consumers are watching what they spend. Businesses are dealing with higher costs. And when millions of people and thousands of companies start making smaller decisions, those decisions can eventually create a much bigger story. And here's where it gets interesting. A decision made in Washington, a change in interest rates, a decision by a major company, or a shift happening somewhere else in the world can eventually reach an ordinary American family. You might never see the decision being made, but you can see the bill it creates. So in this story, we're going to follow the money, from Washington to Wall Street, to American businesses, to the gas pump, to the grocery store, and finally, to your wallet. Because the biggest economic stories aren't always the ones you see on the news. Sometimes they're hiding inside the bills sitting on your table. And the first place where ordinary Americans can actually feel this pressure is the gas pump. You don't need to understand Wall Street. You don't need to follow the Federal Reserve. You don't even need to know what's happening in Washington. You just have to drive. But here's what most people miss. Gas doesn't just affect your car. It affects almost everything that moves. Trucks, delivery vans, farm equipment, airplanes. And when transportation gets more expensive, the cost can travel with it. And then you walk into a grocery store. You see the same shelves, the same products, the same shopping cart. But your total at checkout doesn't feel the same anymore, because the cost of getting products to the store, storing them, packaging them, and selling them can all be connected to the bigger economic picture. And this is where the story gets bigger. Higher transportation costs can affect businesses. Businesses can react by changing prices. Consumers react by spending differently. And then other businesses feel that change. One decision creates another. Then another, until a problem that started somewhere far away reaches your local store. And eventually, all of those tiny changes have to land somewhere. Sometimes it's at the gas pump. Sometimes it's at the grocery checkout. Sometimes it's your monthly payment. And sometimes you don't notice the change until you look at your bank account. That's when the numbers stop being an economic story and start becoming your story. But the gas pump is only where most Americans notice the problem. Because behind the scenes, something much bigger is happening. The price of energy affects almost everything around you. The truck delivering your groceries needs fuel. The factory producing your phone needs electricity. The store selling your food needs power. And when those costs rise, businesses have only a few choices. They can absorb the loss, they can cut costs, or they can pass the bill directly to you. And this is where inflation becomes more complicated than just a number on a screen. Imagine you're running a small restaurant. Your food costs go up. Your electricity bill goes up. Your delivery costs go up. Your employees need higher wages because their own living costs are rising. Suddenly, keeping the same menu prices doesn't make the same business sense anymore. So the restaurant owner raises the price of a meal. Maybe it's only $1, maybe $2. And to one customer, that doesn't sound like much. But multiply that across thousands of restaurants, millions of products, and millions of transactions. And suddenly, those tiny increases become a much bigger burden. But consumers don't just accept higher prices forever. They start changing their behavior. Maybe they eat out less. Maybe they switch to cheaper brands. Maybe they postpone buying a new car. Maybe they decide that vacation can wait. And when millions of Americans make those choices at the same time, businesses start feeling the pressure from the other side. And now we reach the next layer of the story. Because when consumers spend less, businesses earn less. When businesses earn less, they become more cautious. Hiring can slow, investments can be delayed, expansion plans can disappear, and suddenly, what started as higher costs starts affecting something much more important: people's jobs. And this is where the story becomes much more personal, because prices are one thing, but your income is another. If groceries cost more, you can try buying less. If gas costs more, you can drive less. But what happens when the paycheck itself becomes uncertain? That's when the economic pressure starts changing the way people think about their future. For years, Americans got used to a certain idea: work hard, earn more, and eventually move forward. But when companies become uncertain about the future, that equation can change. Hiring decisions get delayed, new positions disappear, raises become harder to get, and employees who already have jobs can start wondering, how secure is my paycheck? And when people become worried about their jobs, they change their behaviour. They stop spending as freely. They postpone big purchases. They save more. They pay down debt. Maybe that sounds responsible. And it is. But when millions of people do the same thing at once, the entire economy feels it. And this is why the job market matters so much. Because a strong economy isn't just about stock prices. It's not just about GDP. It's not even just about inflation. It's about whether ordinary people feel confident enough to spend, save, borrow, invest, and plan their lives. And when that confidence starts disappearing, the warning gets much harder to ignore. Think about what happens next. If fewer people buy cars, dealerships feel it. If fewer people eat out, restaurants feel it. If fewer people buy new homes, construction companies feel it. If businesses sell less, they may order less, hire less, invest less, and that can create a cycle. Now we get to one of the most powerful forces behind the entire story: interest rates. You might hear the phrase on the news and immediately tune it out, but interest rates can quietly affect the price of your mortgage, your car loan, your credit card balance, and even the decisions businesses make. And when borrowing becomes expensive, people start thinking twice before spending money. Think about a family trying to buy a home. The house itself hasn't suddenly changed. The walls are the same, the kitchen is the same, the neighborhood is the same. But the cost of borrowing can completely change the monthly payment. And suddenly, a home that looked affordable on paper isn't affordable anymore. And it's not only homeowners.
In the heart of
who
American
feel it.
Maverone, executives
Businesses
assess the financial
borrow money
viability
too.
of expansion.
A
They
restaurant
review
might need a
financing
loan to
documents,
open
weighing
another
capital
location.
against long-term
A
returns.
factory
This
might need
evaluation shapes
financing
the
for new
future of
equipment.
industrial investment.
A startup might need capital to hire more people.
Review financing documents,
When
weighing
borrowing
capital
gets
against
more
long-term
expensive,
returns.
some of those
This
plans get
evaluation
pushed
shapes
back.
the future of
And when
industrial
investment
investment.
slows, future growth can slow with it. But here's the part that makes this complicated. High interest rates can hurt borrowers, but they're often used because policymakers are trying to control something else: inflation. The goal is to make borrowing and spending more expensive, so demand cools down. And if demand cools down enough, price increases can eventually slow. And that's the balancing act. Policymakers don't want prices rising too quickly, but they also don't want the economy to slow down too much. Too much pressure, and people struggle to borrow and spend. Too little pressure, and inflation can remain stubborn. So the question isn't simply, are interest rates high or low? The real question is, what happens to the American economy when they stay that way for long enough? So now we can connect the pieces: the gas pump, the grocery store, the paycheck, the mortgage, the interest rate. At first, these look like completely different problems, but they're connected. Because the economy isn't one machine with one button. It's millions of people and businesses making decisions every single day. And when enough of those decisions change, the entire country feels it. And that's why the next few months matter. Will inflation continue cooling? Will borrowing become easier? Will businesses start investing again? Will Americans feel confident enough to spend? Or will households continue tightening their budgets? Nobody can know exactly what happens next. But one thing is certain: the decisions being made today will eventually show up somewhere in the real economy. So if you want to understand where America is heading, don't just watch the headlines. Watch what happens at the gas pump. Watch grocery prices. Watch hiring. Watch housing. Watch borrowing costs. And most importantly, watch what ordinary Americans are doing with their money. Because sometimes the economy tells you what's coming before the headlines do. Because behind every economic statistic, there's a person. A family deciding whether they can afford a house. A worker wondering about their next paycheck. A business owner deciding whether to hire. A parent standing in a grocery store deciding what to put back. That's the part of the economy that numbers can't fully explain. And that's why this story matters.